Say thank you, Father, for continuously being a hedge of protection around not only this council but this city. Lord, we ask you, Father, as we move forward in your name, God, that you continue to lead us and guide us in the ways that we can continue to represent each and every person that comes to this city, people who live in this city, and people who desire to be in this city. Father, I ask you, Father, to be with our mayor and city manager and the staff as they continue to give us good tidings to give out through our community. Lord, I ask you, Father, in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Well, we got some.
Thank you, Deacon Leggett, for leading us in that word of reflection. Mr. City Manager, the floor is yours.
Yeah, as long as you don't have
Thank
no
you,
ties, we
Mr.
good.
Chair. Thank you, council. We've got a good workshop this morning, which includes some information to share, but also some next steps and some questions with council for our tourism product development projects. And Mr. Chair, I'd also ask if we could reserve time at the end of this presentation before we break workshop for a introduction and a personnel announcement as well at the end.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
So I'm going to ask for our presenters on the tourism product development to come on up to the podium and get the slides moving here. Thank you. Council, you'll remember that in 2023, the State Assembly, our local delegation, authorized the city of Savannah to increase its hotel motel tax from 6 cents to 8 cents on the dollar. This put us into a modern authorization for hotel motel tax, similar to hundreds of other communities in the state of Georgia. That increase, while it did not change the actual dollar amount of hotel motel tax that comes to the city for its general fund, it did increase the allocations for some other partners that receive hotel motel tax, including our destination marketing organization, which is the Visit Savannah arm of the Savannah Area Chamber, as well as the Savannah Convention Center. It also created a dedicated fund for capital projects and investments known as tourism product development. Tourism product development was the new revenue stream that was created as a result of the new authorizing language, and allows the city to invest in infrastructure and other assets all across the city, so long as it adheres to the state statutes that it is a tourism product, meaning that in some way it's associated with tourism. And there are some eligibility requirements for those. As you all remember, as a part of gaining that new authorization, City Council, the city, and our other partners negotiated a resolution for what we would fund in the first several years of tourism product development. And we have here up on the screen the resolution that City Council adopted when it raised the rates in 2023. And there were a handful of projects. And that resolution named out the top 3 priority projects where we would want to focus tourism product development dollars. That was number 1, the redevelopment of River Street, Savannah's waterfront, at the time estimated to be $30 million. Number 2, which is really 2 parts, is the redevelopment of the historic Waterworks building, and connections between Historic District Westside neighborhoods and in-market arena for $37 million. The breakdown really between those two was estimated $20 million for the Waterworks building, $17 million for the connectivity between Westside neighborhoods and downtown. And then we had a handful of remaining projects in the resolution: museum development for $3.5 million, Southside water access, 2 million, wayfinding signage for 2 million, and West Bay Street gateway enhancements, for 1 million. Today in our workshop, we want to give an update on all of those projects, as well as introduce some next steps and some questions that council's going to have to answer as we move forward on each of these questions together. I want to give you a little bit of some of our financial stats related to tourism product development. Since its inception, collections began in October of 2023 under the new authorizing language. To date, we have received a total of $112.5 million total in hotel motel tax collection. Of course, that's allocated to 4 different revenue buckets, only 2 of which are in the city. Specific for tourism product development collections, $16.5 million year to initiative to date collection. So that's from October 2023 up through February 2026, $16.5 million for tourism product development. I then want to just kind of remind you, going back to our budget book, where we have tourism product development and our 5-year plan laid out specifically for these dollars. Because we intend to use some revenue bonds to cover some of these projects, you'll see in the 5-year TPD budget, there is $116.5 million allocated to these projects over the next 5 years. And so we want to talk about those projects in detail today, as well as get into, again, some of the decisions and considerations City Council is still going to need to make as we work ourselves at a pretty high pace through these projects. So let me turn it over to our Chief of Planning and Economic Development, Faye DeMassimo, who's going to walk through the first project, which is River Street, and then she will introduce members of Team Savannah as they come forward to present.
Thank you, City Manager, and good morning, City Council.
Good morning.
So our first project this morning that we wanted to discuss is the redevelopment of River Street, Savannah's waterfront. And I wanted to take a moment to introduce our strong partner who's here with us this morning, Julie Musselman. Julie's the Executive Director of the Savannah Waterfront CID, and we are in close partnership on everything that we're going to be talking about over these next few slides. So the Savannah Waterfront Vision Plan is a plan that the CID took the leadership on and produced in collaboration with Sotil and Sotil as their consultant and their urban planner in that effort. You can see it is an ambitious plan and looks at the Savannah Waterfront Vision in a west, central, and then east waterfront area. We have continued, and we're going to show you more about that in just a few moments. We've continued in looking at a variety of different kinds of capital projects. It's everything from mobility improvements, accessibility improvements, pedestrian improvements, lighting, ironwork. It's a transformational project, but a transformation that never loses sight of the historic roots and the historic integrity and the iconic brand that this part of Savannah possesses. So I wanted to pivot then from the vision plan that the CID has done. At the same time, Savannah Moves, which is our city's first multimodal transportation plan, has been actively underway. And we devoted the first segment of effort to making sure that we were also developing a mobility component that would support and complement and could be fully integrated in with that vision plan as it reached completion. So you will see in this corridor-wide strategies that the multimodal transportation strategy for pedestrian connectivity aims to introduce mobility solutions for non-car modes to enhance safety, comfort, and coherence in this heavily visited waterfront area. These recommendations reinforce a people-first approach by ensuring clear, safe, and discernible multimodal accessibility along River Street, Bay Street, and the connections between. You will also note in this that the connectivity emphasis here is from the High Bluff down to the riverfront. Our first project that will come out of this corridor-wide strategies will be the multimodal ADA, fully ADA accessible path that will go from the north, it'll be on the north side of River Street, up against the infrastructure that is there now and expanded out. And it will also provide connections to 4 elevators, 3 of which are currently in place and 1 of which is to be developed. So again, our emphasis was on making sure that everything on River Street could be accessed by everyone, both for the folks who work there, the businesses, the residents, the employees, and of course, those who visit with us each year. This capital project slide gives you a bit of a sense of the amount of capital projects and the types of capital projects. Again, as I mentioned, we have everything from gateway projects and lighting projects to park improvements, dock improvements, and so forth. And we have developed implementation strategies that will accompany each of those, as well as financial strategies to help implement those. So the next steps on this piece of the work will be for council to consider in an upcoming meeting the overall vision plan that the Riverfront CID has developed, and then the multimodal component of our Savannah Moves project that supports this particular area of activity. Again, those implementation strategies will require council approval to authorize. Where we are in that process now is we are developing the RFP for the engineering that'll be needed, the design that'll be needed for that multimodal path. And that would be an end-to-end project, so that the first project in terms of transportation out of the box will be one where everybody along River Street will see and feel a difference as we bring other improvements forward for council to consider. The more streetscape elements will be positioned in 6 different phases over time, and then the CID will also be looking at particular improvements that will be in their portfolio to implement things like lighting, ironwork, and so forth.
And City Council, I think it might help us to talk about each project as we go along instead of move through the entire presentation for Q&A. I do want to just tee up again and highlight some of the issues that I think are going to be important for council to consider. The CID, using their own funds, created a vision plan for River Street and for the redevelopment here. It was almost a years-long process, a lot of stakeholder engagement, a lot of City of Savannah staff engagement. I know that many of you were a part of some of those engagement and have seen that vision plan. The CID gave us the vision plan, to take it and do with it what council's desire. So I think the first step is if council is a determination by council whether or not they're ready to formally consider and adopt that vision and master plan for River Street, and so that we can begin to start programming some of these capital improvements out. That would be number one step. If there are other things we'd like to see in that master plan, then I think we need that direction too, so we can get those things done. I will say it's a very, very comprehensive master plan. And then, of course, we're going to be coming back to council when we have more to share about our Savannah Moves transportation plan, which is going to incorporate, not only this corridor improvement, but corridor improvements all across the city as well.
Are there any questions? Alderman
Yes.
Palumbo.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Mr. City Manager, and thank you, team, for the presentation. I'm fascinated, by particularly one component of this fantastic master plan, and that is trying to address, I think, ADA requirements and improvements in a place that's famous for the stone stairs of death. So I'm just curious, how will we tackle that challenge, or these challenges?
We mentioned earlier, one of the things that we're doing with this path that extends end to end, which just moving from end to end of River Street can be a struggle, and it's a struggle certainly if you have mobility challenges, but it's also a struggle for people who are visiting us and they're trying to navigate with strollers, all kinds of things. And so the elevators, remember we talked about, we're being very intentional about incorporating that elevator access, 3 that are currently there and an additional one that's planned, that the path would connect directly to, while we're still obviously preserving and protecting all of the historic uniqueness and stairs and so forth that are present in the area.
Perfect. So a marriage between the two, we still get to have our fun and a little bit of danger too, out there, and that'll be great to see. Thank you.
Alderman Liggett.
Thank you. Faye, are we considering limiting the traffic on River Street to large vehicles within the study?
We are going to report out more on that. I think we were trying to focus on the infrastructure piece in this one, but we are considering, largely the traffic flow that is out there now would still be present. We are doing some things to help better manage the logistics piece of things like deliveries and so forth that are an essential part of all the business on that corridor. And we are also making the improvements in a way where the vehicular traffic continues to move in a safe and efficient fashion.
Could you make sure that's a part of the study when it's time, because of the historical value of River Street?
Yes.
And also, now that vehicles are larger and they put more weight on River Street itself, I'm not sure what the impact would be if larger buses come in, pull it away from the actual street. So just want to make sure that the entire east, middle, and west part of River Street gonna continue to be intact.
Well, on the 26th, we are going to be doing a work session on Savannah Moves, sort of everything we've done to date, which will include this area, but it'll also include a lot of the west side of Savannah as well. And so we'll look forward to really providing you with a lot of details about that in that meeting. Thank
So
you.
in that conversation also, when we talk about enforcement, Mr. City Manager, we still see, it says no parking on River Street, but we still see a lot of cars parked on River Street, and sometimes it causes an issue of congestion when we try to travel, or if there's visitors or people who really don't know where they are, and the landmarks are the businesses, we can't see them because of those issues.
You're right. I think the vision plan that the CID put together and the work that we're trying to do on the MOVES plan kind of recognizes all of the issues that we're currently facing on River Street. I think the vision plan itself visions for less vehicular traffic on River Street. I mean, by and large, like a lot of the improvements of the River Street plan is kind of taking away some of the parking there and creating more public space instead of surface lot parking, which we thought was going to be an issue with some of the businesses on River Street, but in fact they saw the vision plan and I think kind of understood the concept. So really trying to focus on making sure that we have a really high structured travel lane that's going to be safe for pedestrians and bicycles and ADA compliant, and also trying to create, when we do allow traffic, because we will have to allow some traffic for deliveries, et cetera, that we have places for those deliveries to pull over, to be, and so that the travel lane is unimpacted. I think that we can come back, because there has been a lot of work, and when we do the Savannah Moves plan, we can kind of see what the design is for River Street in terms of the dedicated pedestrian lanes, dedicated travel lane, and then dedicated flex lane space, which will be built to the same grade as the pedestrian and traffic, but allows us to kind of move and grow with how River Street is going to move and grow for the next 30 years. The other things that we're really because we do close River Street, like for instance, we'll begin closing River Street tomorrow, and all through the weekend and through the parade on Tuesday, is really thinking about what kind of infrastructure do we need to have on either end of River Street and on the ramps to and from, so that we can more easily close that street to pedestrian traffic, kind of like a flip of to vehicular traffic to the flip of a switch, and make that more of a pedestrian-friendly place. The other thing that the vision plan really tackles, which is also very exciting, is Factors Walk. And we don't think about Factors Walk as being a part of River Street, but it absolutely is, and the oldest part of the city, and really trying to reactivate Factors Walk into that, into a real pedestrian thoroughfare as well. So I think that, I know that everybody has seen the waterfront master plan. It's a huge book. I wish we had it here on the table. But I do think it probably deserves some dedicated workshop time to looking through some of those planned improvements before we adopt that vision.
My last question is, are we thinking also of the historic rains that we may have and the flooding in certain areas in some of those surface lots? Are we looking at some type of drainage?
Yes, sir, we are. The issue we face there is when we have torrential rain married with an astronomical tide, right? So that they're coinciding together, and you see sometimes those astronomical tides come up over the river walk there and spill into the parking lot. So some of the improvements there are kind of waterproof, if you will, there. We're understanding that there are going to be times throughout the year where the river may, crest up over the river walk for a time or two during those astronomical tides. And we want to make sure that our infrastructure can handle that.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Wilder Bryant.
Good morning. Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to thank the Waterfront Association. I believe when they presented to us, they had 100% participation. And so I'm just curious, in light of the Skidaway corridor, if there is going to be a possibility to have it move further south to the CID's district?
The CID?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would love it to. I would love CIDs all over the city. I think CIDs are a really, really important way for business owners and property owners to be able to invest in their corridors and businesses. The CID and the waterfront was the first CID outside of Metro
Exactly.
Atlanta. It is kind of a cumbersome process, as Julie Musselman knows very well.
Yeah.
And it may not be that the waterfront CID can stretch its boundaries all the way to Skidaway. But how do we support Skidaway businesses
Right.
to create their own CID and see the value in it? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. City Manager, before you came, marketing did a Survey Monkey. We were trying to, when Mr. Hubbard was here, to try to do the same thing. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, but
Yeah.
do some type of association. In light of us getting this money to change the scenery of that arterial street, Skidaway, I was curious, Ms. Musselman, when you did the program there are, on Upward Bound, we were able to do these tours. And so on the brickwork, there are a lot of historical markers, and she's up there. Can it be possible that we have some type of representation of the markers that are in the ironwork that are down there? Ms. Luciana, I see you're thinking, but we want to incorporate that in that process too.
For your
The
Skidaway
markings.
route improvements?
No, I regrouped and I went back to Ms.
Oh, we're
Wilson.
on River
right?
Street.
We're on River Street back
Okay,
again.
yes, ma'am.
And so in those brickwork, there are markings from Bantu tribe and the people that came over. And even if you notice the concrete walking on it, there are different indications of where the people who worked there from the tribes that they came from and the part of the Middle Passage where they were. I'd like to see something like that incorporated in some of those markers down there to explain what that ironing work is.
Okay.
Because that's
Well-
documented
Well,
somewhere.
maybe that's something that we can be an addition and amendment we make to the master
Please.
plan before we adopt it, so that's some good direction. Thank you.
Yes, and we can wear tennises down there, what those slaves put down there, they know what they were doing. We good, the cobblestones, thank you so much, I appreciate that. The other thing is, I wanted to make sure that Ms. Musselman, Julie and I, we're gonna plan on going through this book and beating it up. I wanna know, are they waiting for us to move forward, and when will that vote come? Because we're excited, we wanna see what they're gonna do and how long it's gonna take for us to just really have them come back to vote on this.
Well, we'd like to get it in front of council as soon as council is ready to consider it. Again, I think the vision plan and the master plan that the CID did and the city staff participated
Right.
fully in that, I think it's very comprehensive. There may be some pieces like these historic markers that we can quickly add, but I would say that it's ready for council's consideration.
Right, that's what I was asking about. She put a lot of work in it. Thank you, Ms. Musselman. We appreciate that. And just moving forward, Mr. City Manager and Nikki, we're talking about getting engaged. They had 100%. We want to get there too with our marketing people, and they're well on their way to doing that. Thank you for that staff too, and thank you for for what you do too, Mr. City Manager, and moving forward, when it's to 2026. Thank you, sir.
Alderwoman Lanier. Thank you. Mr. City Manager, what was that hotel motel tax amount again? I can't remember right off that.
So the, let me find the paper right here. That was those were the numbers in the resolution. Are you meaning what's we've collected to date?
No, what we plan to invest in this project.
Well, the resolution states $30 million. I think the price, as has everything, has gone up significantly. We are estimating $60 million for the redevelopment of River
Double.
Street.
And where would that other 30 come from?
Well, it would come from tourism product development dollars.
Future?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that the CID vision plan was on the table, am I?
No, I was kind of chiding myself for not bringing it down from my office and putting it on the table. Yeah, but we have,
Okay,
We'll
I'm
get you
not
the copy.
familiar with it. Maybe I would like to delve into it a little bit in case I can have some questions or, and I had a similar question about the history there. Have we fully vetted or looked at the history on those cotton bins or those bins that some think that were held enslaved people?
The Cluskey basement stores, the vaults next to City Hall.
Yes.
Yeah, we did an extensive archaeological investigation and historical research project, and I can share all that information with council if you would like that.
Yes,
information.
please, I definitely would like that. It's amazing that those storage bins, they look exactly like the slave holding bins in Africa, along in Senegal and in Ghana. They're look like the same people built them, they're just larger over there, so I would like to know the history that we could find. I know what the oral history tells us, but I would like to see what you can find on that. And I guess I don't have any more questions because I really need to look into the plan, so thank you, that's good.
yes, ma'am.
And, good work.
All right. In reference to what you're talking about, Alderwoman Lanier, there was a group of young people that came to council from the Shinholster institution that they have a summer camp during the summertime of some young people that I hang out with a lot. And some years ago, Mr. Shinholster, the entire family, with the institution of the young people, they were a part of that archaeology dig of the Cluskey vaults. And I just wanted to mention that since you brought that up, that they did a lot of work that you will find out, and I just didn't want that to be passed over you, Alderwoman Lanier, in knowing that those young people were very involved and had their hands on the Cluskey vaults, a part of the first work that we were doing at that time. It's a really good conversation we're having here, especially when we're talking about the markers of what took place. Alderwoman Walter Bryant, thank you for bringing that up too. So this is a real good conversation. I'm excited about what you're getting ready to do. And as we are sitting here today, and there's going to be thousands and thousands of people looking at this workshop for the next few days, I also want them to know where those elevators are located right now on the Riverwalk or River Street. The elevators.
You guys come sit here.
So there's an elevator right next to City Hall. There's one right now. There's another elevator that's being constructed, and a new staircase where the new Marriott
The hotel, yes.
hotel is going on the east side, and then I think there's a elevator that would be planned on the west side as well.
Okay, so right now, we have the one between City Hall and the Hyatt. Am I correct?
And we have a second one at the Alida at the Montgomery Street staircase.
Montgomery Street.
Montgomery Street staircase. All right, that end. Thank you, city manager.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
So,
just one second.
You said there was, another elevator, I'm familiar with the staircase, but
Yes, ma'am. The signage is not well done there, and I think Alderman Leggett was just having a conversation about wayfinding signage, which is one of these projects. But it is attached to the Alita, but it is public, and it sits on the left side as you're looking down the stairs, on the left side.
The wide staircase you're talking
Yes,
about.
ma'am.
there is one in one of the hotels down here, and if someone is handicapped,
They will
they will allow them to use it.
They never
So,
told us
The wayfinding piece that Julie just mentioned too, when we were working on the MLK corridor work,
Mhm.
we looked at that same location, I know Julie remembers that as well, and we talked about the wayfinding component of this and how making that elevator more understandable in its location and its access to, especially to those that are, in need of it to enable their, their best ability. Is something that we talked about and is actually in the transportation plan.
and we're gonna talk about, one of the projects was wayfinding signage, and we'll get to that through the process, but there's an opportunity for all of these projects for better wayfinding, which we anticipate we'll be using this allocation to support.
Fantastic. Alderwoman Lanier.
yes, that 100% increase on the cost, are we seeing that reflected in the collection? Are we up on the collection side? Are we gonna have to leverage that?
Well, I think, we certainly were outpacing our estimates. The number that we got to in terms of how much money we would allocate in the resolution was based on the amount of what our projections of the revenues could cover in debt service for 20-year bonds, right? And I think it worked out to like $87 million that we allocated to these projects. In 24 and 25, we collected $6.9 million in TPD in both of those years, which I think outpaced our projections, which are good. I mean, we make conservative projections anyway because we want to be able to pay our bills. So we do think that there's room in the tourism product development line to be able to account for these projects. But again, something like River Street is a phased approach. We'll be taking those projects by phases and completing them when we have the budget capacity to do so.
So we collected 6.9, 24 and 25, and we had a $30 million projection, which is now 60 million. And is that 6.9 for all of the products or just for the River Street?
It's for all the products.
products.
But just remember that the calculation was based on debt service.
Debt service.
So, over 20 years, so if
So
you.
we're spending future hotel motel dollars now, or we?
Well, we haven't, the first hotel motel tax dollars you'll spend might be today when you pass, if you approve the $9 million for the Waterworks building. So, yes, we're using, just like any capital project, you might bond out some of that project to be able to get it done and then use future revenues to service that debt.
Okay.
It'll be a blend of both. So today's project, we don't need to bond it out. We're using what we've collected so far to pay the contract on the Waterworks building stabilization and restoration.
We're gonna be really creative in making this work, even in servicing the debt. Because if this particular one is up 100%, and I imagine the other ones are gonna be up too because of the economy. Right, and inflation, so, I'm just watching that to see
Yeah.
how we're going
It will
to
be.
manage it.
It will be, I think for the projects, River Street's a phased approach. The Waterworks building is not a phased approach, that's one building, right? And so there's two parts to it, the stabilization and then the final build out for whatever program we decide, and we'll get to that next. Tied to Town is also a phased project, so it's kind of as we get resources, we'll continue to work through that. The museum development, not a phased approach, but you know, council has decided which museum to invest in there, and we're almost done. South Side water access is gonna be kind of opportunistic for that $2 million. Wayfinding is something we'll be able to incorporate in all of the plans, especially the first three. And then the West Bay Street Gateway enhancements, I know all of you and I have talked about that, and we'll have an update at the end of this presentation on how we're gonna move forward with that $1 million. But I think, you know, this tourism product development is going to be a source of revenue that city council is gonna continue to be able to look at. If there's room, we'll be able to adopt more projects. If there's room, we'll be able to bite off more phases of these projects that we have here. But just remember that when we contemplated these were the projects that we contemplated we would take down in the first 20 years of this work.
Yeah, when we discussed this, I think when some of us, or most of us came on council in 2020, we talked about the different buckets. And I know that was, the state government, I think, made this decision as to what amounts or what percentages went into whatever buckets. So would it be advantageous that we look at that to see if we could remeasure some of those buckets or those percentages?
Well, we can certainly advocate for the state if we feel that those buckets need adjustment. And I will follow up with council after the meeting with, you know, and resend what those allocations are. You'll remember that under the previous allocation, where it was a 6 cents hotel motel tax, the city received 50% of those 6 cents towards general fund allocations. The convention center received a portion, the destination marketing organization received a portion, and then the city received another small portion to support the civic center operation. In the new allocation, which is 8 cents, the city receives 38.5% of the 8 cents to general fund. And it works out to the exact same amount. 50% of 6 cents and 38.5, I hope I'm getting that right, of 8 cents is the exact same, you know, 3 cents. So we still get the exact same to our general fund. We get this new bucket of revenue for tourism product development. The DMO received increases in allocation, and the convention center received an increase in allocation. And that's the new authorization that's statewide.
One last thing, Madam Pro Tem, we also, during this time, had some conversations with then City Manager Michael Brown about a percentage of that money for the hotel motel and these tourism products. I think at the time we were talking about $7 million being set aside to assist workers in the hospitality industry on transportation and maybe childcare. That didn't get anywhere. He didn't see that was something that we needed to be concentrating on. But I would also like to relook at that to see if it's an allowance or something we could do to create some type of thing that would give some relief to the mostly young people period, that work in the hospitality industry. Because I think what came out of that was what's the little car that picked folks up and was supposed to. It wasn't the Dodge, it's the other little.
The downtown.
The downtowner, and I have questions about that because I've seen tourists jump in those and get out and give the drivers monies. I don't even understand how it works, but it was looking like a taxi service, so I would like for us to be clear on how all of that works, to see if we could better manage it, or better fund it, or better help the people that work in the industry that make all of this stuff possible.
Yes, ma'am, we can continue to work on those and we can clarify whether any of that would be allowable for a tourism product development. You know, the downtowner is something that is funded by the city through other streams, and is a free service and designed for for workers in downtown. But we can follow up with that. I'd like to move on to our next projects if we can, Mayor Pro Tem.
Shortly, Alderwoman Bell and Alderwoman Miller Blakely, if they can make their comments quickly and we can move on.
I think he answered my comment. I was going to ask about a timeline for the River Street improvements, but I sense that along with the other major projects, it's a phase.
It is.
Okay, and thank you, Alderwoman Lanier, for your comment about in comparing the holding stations for slaves to the ones in Ghana. I hadn't thought about that, but the ones in Ghana are underground and small, so and dark. So they may compare, but I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, they make them very uncomfortable. They're really small compared to the size.
Okay, thank you, Alderwoman Lanier, for bringing up the comment about the workers and if the tourism funds could be allocated for that. And that was one of the questions that I was gonna ask. But I don't know if you all spoke about why the waterfront redevelopment project increased to 60 million as opposed to 30 million. Can you give me a brief
Well,
synopsis
it's
on
once
what happened?
increased because the cost of infrastructure since, you know, and these numbers, remember, it passed in 2023, but had been a negotiation for 2 years. So it really started in 2020 and 2021. And infrastructure prices have increased 40% since 2022. So there's already baked into there. And of course, we could spend $200 million on River Street. It's really kind of, you know, what do you want to tackle? How much do you want to do? What we think is appropriate, especially for our ADA accessibility, for making sure that we have the right infrastructure down there, for getting an improved corridor down there and treating it the way that it should be treated on River Street, which is historic. We think it's going to cost us, you know, $60 million to get that done. I think 40% of that is just, you know, increases in infrastructure. The others is just looking at different aspects of the phase plans that we think would be important to add to that overall plan. And you can see that in the vision plan. And I do want to note that, you know, none of this work has gone through serious estimation because there's no engineering yet there. So we'll know more about the full cost of these phases once we start to really look through the engineering and designs of each phases, understanding what's going to be underneath River Street, how much are we going to be disrupting it. So there's a lot of opportunity for these numbers to change. And so we'll know more about these phasing. But right now, this is our estimate, and this is what council has approved in their 5-year capital plan.
So when will we actually start working on those projects?
Well, we'd like for council to adopt the vision and master plan. And the first project that we're going to be working through is that ADA compliance and multimodal pathway, which is the travel corridor on River Street.
Awesome. Now, the money for the West Bay Street Gateway enhancements, have you already asked about that? Oh, we haven't gotten to
Yes,
that
ma'am.
yet, okay.
We're going project by project.
Gotcha, okay. Move forward, city manager.
Thank you. So, want to move now to the redevelopment of the historic Waterworks building. Let's talk about the Waterworks building and then the connectivity together, and we can have a discussion about both of those. I know council's aware, I want to remind council that there is a contract on today's agenda for $9 million for the stabilization of this, which would be the first substantial real spending of hotel, motel tax force and product development dollars that council has taken, and a very, very important action as well. So,
Mr. City Manager,
yes,
can you
ma'am.
do a temperature check in here? It's freezing in here.
It's freezing cold?
I am.
All
I
right.
can do a temperature check
Just
with everybody else.
just for everybody's awareness, there are 2 modes. There's freezing cold and there's a little warm. So we'll tap it to a little warm and see if we can't go from there. Seisha, can you handle that? Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me turn it over to Chrissy Lawrence, our Senior Director of
Thank you,
Real
sir.
Estate and Capital.
Thank you, Sasha.
Good morning, City Council. The historic Waterworks building, we have been working really hard, getting ready to bring you this contract for stabilization work today. It's a $9 million contract amendment. We had already brought on our construction manager at risk, Garbett Construction. So this amendment is for the guaranteed maximum price, the GMP, that you'll be considering today. The scope of the stabilization work includes lead and asbestos abatement. We're addressing a lot of the deteriorated structural components, which includes the roof, trusses, framing, the tower structure. There's a lot of brickwork, terracotta restoration, reinstatement of the historic windows. As you can see when you drive by this building, there's a lot of deterioration that needs to be addressed. So that's why we're moving forward with this stabilization. And then I'm going to turn it over to Miranda Lumpkin-Lapson to discuss next steps for this project.
Good morning. So next steps include that as city manager, oh, did it go away? Oh, thank you. Next steps include, as our city manager indicated and has been shared in the presentation, is today you'll see contract modification number 1 with Garbett Construction Company to establish that guaranteed maximum price of $9 million for the construction services to support the stabilization of the Waterworks building. The contract includes everything that was shared on the previous slide that Christy touched on, as well as the removal of the blue warehouse that is just in front of that building. It will also, you'll see the fence installation. I believe that's going up right now. It's going up right now. So that fence also will show in its, there is some fabric covering around the fence that also has historic pictures from the community. And so that is there to honor the historic communities that are around the Waterworks facility. Also, we can look forward to a presentation in this coming July from RC Elco, and that will verify the activation strategy that will be used for the Waterworks facility operations. And an RFP for design is currently under development by the staff. So we can now go into connections for.
If I could just stop here, Moran, because this is going to be, I think, the big part of where we're going to need council's direction and leadership is the stabilization is one piece of it, and very important, and we know how to do the stabilization work. We had to do an entire 3D laser scan of the building. We're putting it back together brick by brick, terracotta piece by terracotta piece, steel beam by steel beam. But the outcome of which is we want a community asset in the Waterworks building, and we want it to support economic growth and mobility for members in our community. So making sure that we have a clear plan for how we're going to build out that interior space and what the programming is going to be inside of that building is very, very key and will be a decision for city council. And so I know there's been a lot of work around the what could possibly be the feasibility there, how we would be able to program the space. There's a lot of other opportunities that we could use in parallel to what happens at the Waterworks building. So there's just a lot of opportunities. So as we move down the road with the stabilization, we're going to be really, really intentional about engaging council and helping us sharpen our focus on what the build out of this building needs to be in terms of what programming it needs to support for the community. I know that many of you have a vision for that already. And so we're really going to need to pencil that in so that when we're ready for the build out and for the next steps, we know exactly what we're wanting this building to accomplish.
City manager, I know that Alderwoman Lanier and the mayor, you know, this is located in the first district, but it's a city project. But I've heard over the years, so if, I don't know what you've heard thus far of some ideas of what the potential programming can be. I don't know if you want to discuss that now, but it's just, it's been talked about, and I know that the community probably want an update, unless you're going to do that later.
Sure, I'd also like to turn it over to Alderwoman Lanier as well, who I know
Absolutely.
has been working with members of the community there. I also know, Alderman Palumbo and his day job is very focused on these types of things, but in very general terms, we want this to be an entrepreneurial incubator, advancement center for small businesses, for business owners, for residents who want to improve their upper mobility, employability, and entrepreneurial skills. So but within all of that framework, there's a lot of decisions to make about how you scope and what exactly kind of the programming and the purpose of the building is going to be. But that's how we're moving forward, is that this is going to be a place for economic incubation, entrepreneurial support, entrepreneurial advancement and acceleration, and I think and we're not trying to narrow it down to any kind of specific field or industry. That might be something that council wants to do, but right now we're moving forward to know that this is going to be a place for small business and entrepreneur.
You forgot about the Gullah Geechee Food Market.
Farmers Market, Farmers Market, that's being worked on. Yeah, let me chime in here, please. The community, we started working on this in 2005. There was a warehouse on West Bay Street where the Dollar General is, and we rented that for 2 years. The state of Georgia paid the children in the foster system with the organic garden, and we did a farmers market on the weekends, working with Glory Farms. Okay, so the funding went away for that after a while, so we've been doing some things since that time. But when we had an opportunity to work with Rochelle Small-Toney and making decisions around these assets, while we were unable to get a community benefit agreement on the arena, which in essence was not going to benefit the residents like what was intended, then we started looking at the Waterworks building and placed into the plan that we will have the community market and entrepreneur center west there. So I'm bringing you some historic and institutional knowledge because I've been around working with this for just that long. Now, the need was when the monies were invested there, it was because to uplift the west side, a marginalized, low wealth, underinvested in area for generations. And that's what the investment was for. But of course, we need to do something that's going to benefit the whole city, and we understand that. But it's primarily for the impacted residents of that community, being the primary stakeholders who will benefit from this investment. Even the federal government recognized that, and that's why they created an opportunity zone right there in that area. Unfortunately, we were unable to get one of the legacy plans because some of the people in power now decided that we should not, or could not, or would not be able to sit around with the people that came here to create those plans. Now, we have some examples in place of how we can move forward. We have a vision, we have a need. Just like the CID wrote a vision plan, we have a vision plan. Just like you got the Heritage Society over all of these assets all over the city and the county, and with very little scrutiny. So we're gonna move forward with making sure that the people who are impacted in the corridor are gonna benefit this along with the entire city. So that's the way we're moving, that's the way we're going to insist that we continue to move, so this won't end up being something else for someone else. And that's been the experience that we have seen, but at this point, we're not gonna allow it to get off track and end up being something else for someone else. It's gonna have to benefit the primary stakeholders, and then we're gonna make sure also that it's a win-win that will benefit the entire Savannah, including our guests that come here. So that's all.
I wanted that to be stated because it's been a conversation for years, and I think it's very, very important for us to keep the vision that has been talked about for so many decades in front of us, because we are here now. We have finally moved to the part of action and money being put aside for it. So Thank you, Alderwoman Lanier. Alderwoman Wildebine?
Yes, please. In our summary report, in reference to that item on our agenda, and I haven't seen a lot of that, but in the notation part, it says where the city established a 20% DBE goal with a 10% local DBE goal. I'd like to see more of that, because our question is, how is the SDBE being monitored? And so I think that's a great way of letting us know.
Yeah.
It's on page 121,
And I can-
exactly who's doing this. And this is about the second time I've seen that. I would like to see that in there, so we are not questioning exactly which do we have in upfront visual of who exactly is getting these jobs, along with the alderman from the first district was mentioning it. I think because we keep saying that we've got this stuff established, and communication, written communication, and take a picture of it, right? And we know that. And so, Mr. City Manager, can we, moving forward, have that as part of, in the summer reports?
We
who's
can,
getting these
and the
jobs?
reason that you've seen it a couple times
Yes.
is because we're incorporating that now, especially
Yes.
in our CMAR contracts, which allow us
Right.
to track these goals. And just for the contract today, for your edification, it is just over 20% total participation is DBE, with half of that local. RJ Hall Construction, 5.65% of the work, they do concrete. They are a African-American owned firm in
Yes, sir.
Savannah. Elevations Construction, with 10.1% of the percentage of the work is site work, an African-American owned firm in Savannah. Savannah Abatement, with 2.08% of the work, they do abatement. This is an African-American female-owned firm in Savannah. Henry Plumbing, doing 0.33% of the work, doing plumbing, is a WBE based in Savannah. And Integrated Power Connections, doing 1.86% of the work. They're doing electrical work, and they're an African-American owned firm in Savannah.
Yes, sir, we're familiar with that. I would just like going forward, thank you so much for doing that, incorporating it in our paperwork. And I know you said that, I noticed it a couple of times, and then I got sidetracked. We'd really like to see that, if we could. Thank you for what you do over there, appreciate you.
So what I'll take from the direction is, I'll continue to work with Alderwoman Lanier and community organizations and leaderships on the west side to continue to sharpen the vision for the Waterworks building, so that we can bring that forward to council for discussion and consideration as we move forward with the build-out. But I am excited that, after 20 years of having, the community talked about a need here, that we have the funds and a plan to move that forward. So I'll continue to work with Alderwoman Lanier on shaping that forward for council.
Yes, great job, sir, thank you.
Fantastic. I'm gonna get to Alderman Palumbo, and then we're gonna end up with Alderwoman Blakely, but I just want to state that I'm just, the number 20%, I just didn't want that to pass by our public. It's been, when I first got on city council, it was back down to 2% or so. So that's a part of my legislation in increasing the participation for our citizens here in the city of Savannah, especially those who are minority-owned businesses and DBEs. So kudos to Ms. Lotson and her team in making sure that the DBEs and the NWBEs and Savannah First, we're doing that work. So the 20% is not a small, light number on this table. It's a great one. Thank you, Alderman Palumbo.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
It's coming.
And this is really exciting. One, it was really exciting to be part of the tour here, and I have to echo what Alderwoman Lanier said, is that the demand really, it's a marketplace. The founders that are coming up through the community, they need a place to be able to sell and show out their stuff and their goods. And right now, the entrepreneurs are being forced into a vertical where maybe they need to go to a farmer's market, but the farmer's market intention is for fresh food and goods, right? And they're being shut out of the farmer's markets right there. There's not currently a place where they can vend and market in finished goods, where the margins are much higher, they can make much more money, and they can grow and they can scale. And currently, a founder, they'll be working in a cottage business out of their home. The next step up is to go to a retail space, go to the SBAC, and take, honestly, an enormous risk on a commercial space, which is getting more expensive by the moment. So this fills a very special gap where they're gonna be able to grow and scale. They may be able to stay there as long as they need to. And they've got a baked-in market where thousands of visitors are gonna be able to come in as an economic driver, which is really exciting. So you can see the vision in the space there. And I can attest, I've seen it firsthand. You'll have plenty of founders that the toughest job is gonna be choosing who you'd like to elect to be in the space. Because you're just, I think the city's gonna be hit over the head with demand, and that's an exciting place to be.
Alderwoman Blakely.
Well, I hope and pray that it will benefit the residents, the people that's mostly impacted
Oh, yeah.
by what's going on.
And these are Savanians in the community, like right here. These aren't outside vendors. Currently, they're going, I apologize, but currently they're going to other cities to where they have a marketplace to be able to show their stuff and sell their wares. So it's gonna be exciting.
But I'm still saying, the residents, if they don't live in
Yes.
that area, then, you know, those people that live there first will get consideration.
Let's make some
Um,
clarification on that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. City Manager, I see here where the budget is $9,630,605. And in our, summary, it says 9 million, I meant to say 9 million.
This
So
part of the contract
other-
is 9 million.
So just this part, so the 630,605, what is that?
Well, we've,
What is that?
well, we've
that's just
spent some of
additional
that
money.
on some of the engineering work that we've already had to do,
Mm-hmm.
the 3D models to know, you know, what we needed to fix, and some of the ancillary work that isn't.
Mm-hmm. So
the
that money has
construction
already
work.
been spent, that money has already been.
Some of it, I don't think that all of that $600,000 has been spent, but a portion of it has been. The guaranteed maximum price that our CMAR has given us for
Is
the
9 million.
stabilization of the building on this phase of the work is $9 million. So it's good that it's coming in under budget.
Wonderful.
But just to know, there will be more money spent on this building because we'll have to then finish it out, right? And we'll have to, you know, create the spaces and finish it out. This $9 million is for the stabilization of the building, a lot of the exterior work, and putting the building back together so it can be finished.
Got you. In reference, Mayor Pro Tem, to the 20% for DBE and MWBE, that is a good number. But I would love to see it get to the point where we don't have to even worry about that, where it's gonna be equity across the board. So, Miranda, thank you for that. Hopefully we can get it to 30, then 40, then 50. And we ain't got to worry about it.
Savannah-based
no more.
businesses.
Thank you so much. Alderwoman, I know we need to move forward,
Just for clarity,
and then Alderwoman Lanier, quickly.
wanted to address the question of, I know it's a city project, and Ms. Blakely brought up the instance of it being just by the people impacted. And so how are we going to determine who from the city, we know is going to be able to do that? Because he's saying that founders, and so we need to have something in concrete saying, you know, X amount for the impacted area.
Yes.
Will you
Yes.
incorporate that? That's the only question that I wanted to ask, and make sure
Good
that
science.
we get some, yeah, it's a
She's
good catch.
absolutely right. There will be some subsidized spaces, there will be some market spaces, so, and then that needs to be contractual.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
this past weekend, we had the Weeping Time Festival, and it was a great festival, and the opportunities for vendors sold out,
Yes.
and it looked great. And so you're right, there are no artisan spaces available except for special events, and this will solve that. Then, when we talk about investment and uplifting corridors and areas, we just don't want the residents to come into the room and raise their hand to participate, and that's the level of their participation. We want to see businesses, local businesses, residential businesses, we want to see people have contracts.
Right.
And I brought this up when we first started letting contracts in the Canal District. I didn't see that. I saw the same players, these legacy people who get all the contracts, and they sit in elected positions, they sit in planning positions, and they continue to get these contracts. And that's why I was glad to see E for Progress
and the other young lady, Erica, I don't know, her business name, them getting some of these contracts and the percentage, being listed so we could horn in on that. It's important that we not only have residents driving and participating in voice, we need to have them participating contractually so that money could turn over, those dollars could turn over more than one time in the community. And that's how you build community wealth. And we will continue, because the last meetings we had at the Adams Complex, the room was full, and that was very encouraging, because we want to continue that our projects are resident-led, citizen-led, resident-driven. And so that's our new way of doing business with Savannah GPS, and that's great, and we're moving in towards more of an equitable type involvement as we have smart growth and development in the city, and this represents that. So we want to make sure that we continue that path and not fall back into the ways of old.
Alderwoman Lanier, Ms. Lotson, so we're gonna give that business a shout out. You mentioned someone, Alderwoman Lanier, and Mrs. Lotson finished the name. What's the name of the business?
Erica Tate's business is Blue Knowledge.
Blue Knowledge, that's it.
Thank you, City
They're
Manager.
doing great work for the city. So let's move on from the Waterworks building itself and then talk about connectivity
Yes.
in and around the Waterworks building and the Canal District, and how it connects to its neighboring neighborhoods to the west and to the east. I'm gonna just give a start, and I'll let Bridget finish here, but you'll see this this rendering here, but it doesn't show all that's contemplated for how we want to spend these connectivity dollars. And again, you know, this is going to represent some phased work, and might increase over the $17 million that we had originally allocated for this work. But I want to note that, you know, the east to west corridor no longer, you know, the map stops shorter, but we want to extend those pedestrian connectivities from Louisville Road from west boundary all the way to Fair Street. And then you see some of the other connectivity that we're working on in and around. So I'm going to turn it over to Bridget to kind of talk about what these connections mean, and how we're going to begin to start planning and programming these connections.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and Alderman. My name is Bridget Liddy. I'm Director of Planning and Urban Design with the City of Savannah, and I'm here to talk with you about the second component of the Waterworks and Connections piece. Having the Waterworks come to fruition is super exciting. We've got a lot more work to do, but it's great to see the fence up and the work happening, because that building is desperately in need of some TLC. But as part of that, what we're trying to do is create an opportunity for people to get in and out of the Canal District area and surrounding neighborhoods. And as the city manager mentioned, there is a map that is up on the screen. This is actually from the Canal District Master Planning process, that document. Once again, full circle, kind of going back to where we were with our plan, highlighting east-west and north-south connections. And when we talk about east-west, we're looking at that Louisville Road connection. And as the city manager articulated, going all the way to Fair Street, in order to ensure that we're making those connections to the residents in the neighborhoods so they can move in and around our community and take advantage of opportunities that are there for them. In addition to that, looking at the Heritage Trail, which was something that was brought up in the Canal District Master Plan, which would go down Louisville and then turn to hit the End Market Arena. And so you can kind of see that articulated on the map there. North-south connections, we've got a great one coming through there with the Tide to Town Trail, which is currently in its planning processes, with Stormwater, working with Zach Hoffman and his team. That's slowly starting to come to fruition. Another critical north-south connection is Stiles Avenue, which is not part of the hotel motel tax. It's actually a separate grant that was submitted last month for about $7 million to increase the capacity and improve safety on Stiles Avenue from the railroad tracks by the End Market Arena to Louisville Road. So super exciting to see how that's going to come to fruition, and we should be hearing about that at the end of June, whether we got that grant. And so next steps with connections, is primarily looking at how we are going to be making connections east-west to downtown. So Chief DeMassimo mentioned the River Street efforts that are going on, working with the team on Savannah Moves. That focus is now going to shift to the Canal District, and we will be having an update for you in March 26th, the next meeting, in reference to how all that's progressing and moving forward.
So are there any questions or comments about connectivity in and around? It's a little spotty right now, so we're ready to get some of this work going.
Alderwoman Lanier. Bridget, thank you so much. Bridget has been so dedicated to this work, and it's obvious that you've listened, you've heard, and I see the request incorporated in the planning, so thank you for your work. I appreciate you. I mentioned to the Savannah Moves Committee, when I met with them, a couple of things. We've spoken a lot, Jay, and you know we have about Louisville Road and making sure that the same infrastructure quality we see down by the port side in Scad Dorm, that we see that in front of Brickyard, at Styles, right there at Lathrop Avenue, and now that the Scad soundstage building and that facility is on Louisville Road, just in the rear of the Weeping Time property. There's a lot of students starting to walk and bike and scoot in that area, and it's dangerous. And I don't want to see any of those children being hurt or in jeopardy because we haven't given that road the attention it needs. I'm sure we'll get it now for several reasons. We have this investment, plus those children are there. But we don't need to stop there. And you heard me, because now we're going to extend that walking trail or walking sidewalk to Fair Street, and that would connect the most western neighborhood that we have, which is Woodville. So that's all good. There's the burn, the railroad burn. So now we have to deal with the railroad. In days of old, even way before my time, I've heard the stories from Grands about that trail where they used to walk from West Savannah to Frogtown and walk up on that trestle. And so we're doing something about continuing that ambiance of and the ability to do that near Scad and the west boundary area where the trail is going to come over, and you see students walking up there now. But it's been interrupted by that port road, so we won't be able to continue that all the way down to West Savannah. But the portion that's left, that's west of the port entrance to Lathrop Avenue, it's even ugly there. And it's something up there look like a little bird house, a bird view shot house or something. I don't know what you call it. But if you pass there, look up there, and I know there's some history surrounding that. I don't know the story behind that. Right at the end of Styles Avenue, just look up there. But there's some opportunities there. Yeah. And when you make that, if you're traveling west and you make that right into West Savannah, we've spoken years about beautifying that and some public art, some place making it there, because it's such a great opportunity to do something that will make people feel more enlightened and encouraged when they enter into that community. So these are opportunities. And you know, the condition of the road there is dangerous for cars. So you know it's dangerous for walking traffic and students. So this would solve that, and which is a good thing. I think that the drainage team, they're doing a great job. We talked in the Cloverdale meeting 2 nights ago about some pinch points and the work they're doing there. They completed the new, what do you call it, under by Woodville? Is it what did they do there? What do you call that?
The culvert there?
It's a culvert, so they installed a new culvert there, so we're waiting for the next torrential rain to see if that's gonna alleviate some of those problems. But then we'll talk some more about the railroad and the rocks, because that's what they told me last night.
Yeah.
You know, that has to be dealt with. But all of these are improvements, all of this is progress. And again, the road coming out of West Boundary into the parking lot. What road is that, Bridget? West Boundary into the parking lot there. Cohen. And so that came up. I'm glad we are trying to pursue this grant to complete the Styles Avenue north of the railroad track. It looks so disconnected there, and we got all this connectivity money. So that needs to be worked out. That's so important, because I hate to see when there's an event at the arena and I see people walking up top of this berm.
Yeah.
Women with children and people walking in the street because those are their only two options.
That's right.
So we're gonna have to, it's a safety issue. So we're gonna have to do that and make that a priority. And prayerfully, we'll get this grant. But I also mentioned that because we have drainage problems, because we have flooding problems in this corridor, which we are working on along the canal, I think that the Tide to Town trail that comes through that portion of the city needs to be a nature trail, a natural trail. And I asked Denise and her team to look at that. If you all get a chance, Google nature trails. They have several up around Atlanta. They have different materials. They have designed the tree placements better. We're talking about having fruit and as a forest, edible forest along the trail. But the ground, we don't need all of that asphalt. We don't need pavement or whatever. We need to be able to have some absorption in the trail that comes through there, and that would make it a benefit for the people that live there and not just for whoever, came up with this.
Understood. And we'll research all the pervious ways to complete the trail. The consideration also that we need to make is that, it's accessible. And you can, somebody who's, utilizing a wheelchair can get through that part of the roadway just as easier as any other part. So that's gonna be the thing that we'll have to work through, but completely understand the need and request there.
City Manager, let me mention, the cleanup of, is that Alderwoman Lanier, coming off of Louisville Road, going on to Augusta Avenue, and then there's a road that's right there in front of the railroad tracks. Dooley. Okay, so there's certain portions that the residents looking at every day where there are water bottles and things of that nature, and I know that that is a situation with the railroad, it's the railroad right of way. How can we get that cleaned up?
There's a car wash, fruit stand kind of business right there, and that's privately owned. Now, the city owns like 9 acres right there in the rear of that goes down to the Geechee Canal. So there's opportunities there, and there's talk because housing is needed, and that's the community's viewpoint on that. That hasn't been one of our areas where we've had a lot of illegal dumping.
Is that Comer Street right there that runs, that's the area I'm talking about?
Comer is parallel to Augusta Avenue, right next to the tracks.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's railroad property. Railroad property.
It's
You're absolutely
railroad.
right.
So, City Manager, if we can get and Alderwoman Lanier, working on the railroad, cleaning up that area because,
A lot of new housing going in there.
There you go. Thank you, City Manager. Move forward.
And as we move forward to Tide to Town, I think it's just really important because we've talked, a lot of the discussion today has been, a lot of history about ideas and visions that have, been a long time coming. And I just want to kind of focus in on, like, this is the real kind of magic of the Tourism Product Development Funds and the steps that council made several years ago that we're going to be able to invest in these areas, and to connect that when you have investment, it usually helps beget other investments like grant opportunities and others because people want to add to. They don't want to be the first dollar in the hat, right? And so that's really, really important, and that's what we try to build off of. So if we can move forward with an update on Tide to Town, which is our other priority tourism product development project.
Before you want to talk about,
I just wanted to, I guess you can go ahead and talk about it. Once you finish this, then I'll talk about my experience on the trail
Okay, yes, ma'am.
last week.
So the third item, as far as priorities go for the tourism product development funding and revenue, has to do with the development and construction of the Tide to Town network. So Tide to Town came out of a master planning process that was led by the Savannah Development and Renewal Authority several years ago, pre-COVID. And at that time, it was a concept. It was a 30-mile trail that went around the city. And what we did is we went ahead and engaged a consultant team to go ahead and move forward and look at taking that concept and putting it a little bit more meat on it and looking at it with an equity lens. And so the product that you all have in front of you is the Tide to Town plan. And it focuses primarily on community and transportation goals, specifically safe walking and biking for recreation and daily travel. But the more important piece of it is better access to schools, jobs, parks, and transit. And so when we look at that, we were looking at it with an equitable lens and equitable growth. And so as we went through this process, we looked specifically at historically underserved neighborhoods and how to better serve them through this particular project and program. And so you're looking at some of the images from the plan, which hopefully we'll be able to present to you all at a later date, and looking at developing plan or projects as well as programs for those areas that are going to be impacted from the implementation of the Tide to Town Trail. And when we look at that, that's about a mile or a half mile off of the trail. And we've identified 8 neighborhoods based on the data that was crunched with our consultants as far as those key priority neighborhoods that we need to focus in on. And then we also, last year, completed a study or a seminar with SCAD-Serve. And what they did is they looked at Montgomery Crossroads and came up with a trailhead design for that area. And keep in mind that that area hasn't even been planned yet, but it was an opportunity for them to be super creative and come up with some unique designs. And what we would like to do is go ahead and see some of the signage that you see on the screen here, move forward with some of the new trails that are coming online. And for next steps, exciting stuff is happening with the completion of the Truman Trail Truman Trail 2B in June. It's actually, I think there are people actually using it right now, which is kind of exciting to see. I mentioned the implementation of the SCAD-Serve trailhead designs, potentially pulling those into the new Truman Trail so people actually know where it is and can get access to it. And then presenting this plan to you all. Looking at additional funding strategies for projects. I know that we are currently working on Middle Ground Road, which is a portion of the trail south side. That's currently in its concept phase, but it looks like we're going to go ahead and move forward with right-of-way acquisition in 2027, and then with shovels starting to go into the ground in 2029, which is super exciting. Another thing that we're considering is in the report or the document that you have, we looked at different funding strategies because this is going to be a huge endeavor, and how are we going to pay for this 30-mile trail. And one of the recommendations was the potential of looking at tax allocation districts, and if tax allocations or districts are something that you all would like to pursue, we need to determine whether or not we want a community benefits ordinance associated with the use of those TAD funds. To support private development as well as our community goals, similar to what we talked about at the last council meeting.
So I just want to note, I mean, you know, obviously this is great work has been done on this trail, and I think it's really looking phenomenal. Thank you, Alderman Palumbo, also for getting the SCAD team involved on the design. I think that really adds a great community element to it, and for continuing to push us to completion here. So it really exciting that Truman Phase 2B is being used right now. Alderman Palumbo and I walked across that bridge several months ago, and that's really kind of connectivity in action where the Truman really cut off pedestrian activity crossing, and what an incredible addition to the infrastructure there. That's my.
I did it on Monday.
You did it on Monday?
Alderwoman Wilder Bryant.
Mr. City Manager, this is a real work of love. You know, we need to be healthier people. But my concern, and I'm sure it's concern of all the other trails, we need more lighting.
Oh, yes.
Lighting, the call boxes, especially in my specific area, Magnolia Park area. There's been some homelessness over there that we've been addressing, but they keep coming back. Along that park, from walking there, the lighting, but also the brushes, the trees need to be really cut back
Yep.
from the area that they walk. Because you can just jump out, whatever, but great job. We like the connectivity, but just the call box, we want to make sure, and I would like to have at least an inspection. We don't really have inspections over there. Maybe somebody designated to do those type of things for each area, or maybe one person, code enforcement or somebody, to make sure that that lighting and that light boxes are anything that's going to make walking that area more inviting, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you, Ms. Lee.
City Manager, I'm coming to you all, but this thing is itching at me, and it still is. So, I'm a lover of maps, and I am. When I look at this, still,
What page?
it is, the maps are, so I'm on page 25, it's the same map, starting probably page 17. And I'm looking in this book, the Tide to Town plan that we have here. So, this book is still showing me the same story that I've had concerns about the entire time, and it has not improved. So if you look at it, and I don't even have to look at this, but the inequity of Tide to Town when it comes to the west side of Savannah, it's a clear picture. It's extremely clear on this map. There's activity from the north. There's extreme activity on the east. There's a new activity that was incorporated, thank you all so much, in the south of Savannah. But still, on this day, there is nothing. There is no paths. What do you have down here in the legend? In the legend it says off-road paths and bike lanes of these lines that's on this map. So I'm not talking about anything that is just out of the ordinary. I'm just talking about the non-inclusion of bike paths. People in the 5th district, people in the 1st district ride bikes and need walking paths. So thank you all so much for this work, continuously. Montgomery Crossroads, thank y'all. That was one that was excluded until Alderwoman Blakely and I had to make a conversation about including Montgomery Crossroads. So I'm not gonna let this thing pass today with the non-inclusion that's so clearly on this map of the 5th district and the 1st district with walking paths, bike paths, and all this wonderful stuff that's going on in our city. We can include it as we move forward, but we just cannot exclude it.
Yes, ma'am. I hear you, and I'd love to know where exactly you want us to work on bike paths, and we'll do that work. I did want to come back to this slide too, which I think is we were taking a really keen focus on how is Tide to Town supporting our neighborhoods. And we're looking at access from a half mile to the trail. And again, I mean, the trail connects dozens of schools and libraries and parks. And we want to continue to build out trail networks, but, just to key council in on some of this work, which is all in our equity framework here about how this trail is attempting to support these neighborhoods. And I want to, Mayor Pro Tem, work with you specifically on how you think we can better include some trailheads or some spokes into, tied to town, which isn't inclusive of all the trails we have, but is trying to connect a lot of the trail systems that we have and expand onto them. How we can continue to spoke into neighborhoods, and hopefully we can get to a place one day where every neighborhood has a very, very clear walking, biking connectivity, recreational pathway that can get them from where they are to anywhere they want to be in the city.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. Alderwoman Lanier, did I see your hand?
Yes, ma'am, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So, years ago, we did some extensive research on trails, understanding the value of trails and what they bring, and also of how they can negatively impact marginalized communities. And what we found was that wherever there was a trail, that's where you found the most gentrification, negative impact of displacement. And therefore, that happens. It has happened up around the Beltway in Atlanta. And what needs to happen is that you have the policies, the equity policies in place to make sure that you can ward off what we have seen in other places. And that's one of the reasons I've been pushing for these equity policies. And I think now we are starting to realize the TADs and the CBAs, and these are the type mechanisms that we need to have in place in order to strike some kind of balance, so people could live, work, play, stay, and create generational wealth in the neighborhoods that they've been in for generations. And so as we continue to build out these developments and these trails, we have to think about that negative impact and making sure we have the policies in place on the front end before the mass displacement that we're seeing continues. And SCAD has come to the table once again, this time through their SCAD Serves grant. And so what they're doing is deciding where they want to place their charitable funds. Now, if we had a pilot in place, then we get to decide as a city where those monies go. But by them doing it this way, then they get to decide that they want cameras and trail signs and that kind of thing. And if we had to choose, it may be some other areas where we want to point those funds, and I just want to mention that. I agree with the Alderwoman, there are some areas that we could probably do a little bit more in, but I can't really get to the trails because I just want some good infrastructure. If we just had some solid sidewalks, especially in West Savannah community, not the neighborhood. West Savannah community consists of 3 neighborhoods: Hudson Hill, West Savannah, and Woodville. And if we just had some decent sidewalks, we just a stone throw away from downtown. We're very familiar with walking downtown. You can see people walking downtown all day long. Now, on West Bay Street, I don't know how many times, that's our new street that we're proud of with new sidewalk, but that sidewalk has been destroyed because we have allowed delivery trucks and operations to happen on the sidewalks. And I've brought it out over and over again. It looks like marble. The sidewalks are so cracked in the areas. So they're not safe for riding bicycles on or walking. And we need to do that. And I guess I've reported it so many times over the last few years. Now I'm mentioning it in this forum because nothing has happened. And we continue to allow these people who rent these small industrial intrusive lots to operate on the right-of-way and on the streets, and that has to stop. So therefore, we need a policy in place or some teeth in the policy so they know that you can't do this anywhere else. So why do you think you're gonna do this as operational, as business as usual? in West Savannah. So these are the things that I continue to bring to you. I continue to talk to you all about. I am seeing some progress in certain things, but something like that, and we're talking connectivity, and we're talking infrastructure and trails, but we're ignoring something that important as a safety measure of why we are allowing these people to operate and destroy the investment that we have made as a city in putting these this infrastructure in place. So the connectivity piece on the West Savannah that we're not seeing a whole lot of, I hope and pray as we continue to have smart growth and development on the IP property. Hopefully we'll have some smart city innovation development happening. And as we can decide, hopefully through eminent domain, what we're going to do with the Weeping Time property, then we'll have some more opportunities to connect walking traffic, footpath to these assets and these destinations that will benefit the entire city of Savannah and the state of Georgia as we shape the future of our beautiful community. That's all I have, Madam.
Alderwoman
I do want to
Blakely, City Manager, go
just
ahead.
note, again, I know that sidewalks are always an important topic. In addition to connectivity, that's a part of the tourism product development. I just want to note that we do include all of the new sidewalk projects that are planned for the year by district in the budget book. It's page 337. So just if you want to be able to communicate with your communities about where new sidewalks are planned and programmed and funded through this year, you can find it there.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, ma'am.
I thank you for bringing the idea of trails to this community. Had the opportunity on Monday to experience the Truman one off of DeLesseps. And my concern is lighting at night. When do these trails close, or do they close, or how does that work? Is it a certain time that you can be on the trail, or is it just open or whenever?
It's
Okay.
open, and I've taken the note for more lighting, so we'll work on that. I know that in those new stretches, there is lighting there, and I've driven by and used it, and so I want to, maybe you and I can go together, and Alderwoman Linda Wilder Bryan too, and understand like what the kind of lighting you want to see there.
Right.
I think we're using kind of industry standard lighting there for how we light the trails. I know that we'll be bringing forward some agreements too with Georgia Power to further light some of our trail sections as well, so we can continue to work on that.
And what about the flock cameras? Can we use those cameras on the trails as well?
We can add, yes, we can add flock cameras. We can work on that as well to the trails. And flock can be a very helpful tool there. Flock's main tool is, license plate reading is really kind of, its superpower. But certainly some of the tilt, pan, and zoom versions, might be able to help us provide more connectivity there. So we'll add that to our.
Also, Tribble Park, I've gone on that trail. Have we done any lighting out there? Now, when I did go, it was a while when we first cut the ribbon to open it back up.
Yeah.
There was no lighting there. There was just the trail.
Yep.
Have we done anything to enhance that particular
I
trail?
know we've done some work in Tribble Park. I'd have to get back to you whether or not lighting was involved there. We do have an ongoing community group that we meet with, along with Alderman Purty, about recreation on the south side. That has included the work for the South Side Community Center, which we'll be breaking ground on very soon together as a council, but also has included work in Tribble Park, some of the work in the Levita parking lot, which the city owns, and some of the vision planning around parks on the south side. So we can absolutely include lighting as a part of that discussion and see where the community wants to see some additional.
I would really appreciate that, because when you talk about the trails,
They're beautiful. That one on Truman, I really appreciate that.
That's great.
But when you talk about walking at night, we're dealing with a situation in our community right now with transportation, with Chatham Area Transit. And a lot of the people that cannot get the transportation they need from Chatham Area Transit, they walk. And they walk through these trails to get from one part of the city to the other.
That's right.
And I just want it to be safe for those individuals when they're walking, you know, at night and what have you, so.
I
that's-
totally
that's
agree,
why
and
I'm concerned.
I think just another, I think people do use these trails to get to places that they need to go to, and that's
Yes.
the important part about having them. So, yes, ma'am.
Also, I see writing down Eisenhower, there's a row of some of the prettiest trees and flowers, and it's something that has just been planted there. You saw what I was talking about? Is it possible that on our trails, we can do something like that? And also do, as she had mentioned, the fruit forest.
Understood. Well, let's
Okay,
look at
maybe
that.
put
I
an
know-
area.
I just read a memo from our Sustainability and Environmental Services Office is working on community gardens, so I'll put that work on the fruit garden. I do think that the camellias that you're talking about, those were planted, I think in partnership with the Camellia Society. And so we can, work with them too, and that's again, a lot of these partnerships with the garden clubs, Camellia Society, others who help us beautify these areas. But you're
I
right, the
appreciate it.
Eisenhower stretch is
It's
gorgeous right there in
beautiful.
front of Bacon Park.
Yes.
But, and I'll make sure that Nyla Oliver gets the note about our fruit gardens as well.
And I'd like the invitation to walk with y'all too.
Alderman Palumbo?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Thank you, council, for piling in. And what's exciting today is, you know, you guys are experiencing, you're seeing the vision. And this, the origin story really, Tied to Town's gonna be at its best when it's driven by the community. Not by an engineer, not by a map, not by metrics, like by listening to the community. And I think that Mayor Pro Tem is absolutely correct. We need to interact with its design, help shape it. We know our communities the best. We hear from our constituents. We know the individual street and the block and the number where it's going to be most effective. So while I appreciate their efforts, and it's great, you know, that they've made amendments and shape it, they got to sit down with us too, because it's community driven, not engineering driven, and that's what's going to make it successful. The dream is, you know, one day, many, many, many years ago, I tried to ride a bike to go see my father-in-law in Sunset Park on Martha Street, and it was a one-way ride. He had to drive me back. And I said, I should be able to walk there to go see Jerry. Now that I see that I'll be able to cross that 52nd Street Bridge and not take my life in my hands, and it's really exciting, even though it's not even finished yet. We haven't had the ribbon cutting. To see the community activating it, thinking up ideas on how we can make it better. Fruit trees piling in, y'all are seeing the vision for what this is gonna do to tie us all back together. And hundreds of years ago, we used red lines to divide us, then we used highways and byways to divide us. And this is the silo buster that'll bring the whole family back together. So it's exciting to see it underway. It's still early, but I'm just glad that y'all are excited too. Thank you.
So we'll continue moving on, and I think Luciana Spraker will talk about the museum portion of tourism product development and how our project of the Springfield Terrace School is going.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, Luciana
afternoon.
Spraker, your Archives and History Officer. Just a quick little background, Springfield Terrace School, also lovingly known as Pearlie Smith School, was constructed in 1926 as a 4-room schoolhouse for the African-American children in that surrounding neighborhoods during the period of segregation. This building has been vacant since 2012 when the Oglethorpe Charter Academy moved out and the property reverted to the city. In 2022, the city successfully listed it on the National Register of Historic Places, both for its significance to Black history and its architectural importance. In 2023, we were successful in receiving a National Park Service Historic Preservation Fund African American Civil Rights Grant to help support a building conditions assessment and the initial design work. Throughout 2024, we did a community engagement process to help us confirm the programming plan for the rehabilitation project that will provide flexible spaces. And what that determined is that it would include a community gallery to showcase rotating local art and local history exhibits, a meeting room for both community and city activities, including local history and culture education and outreach programs, permanent local history and museum exhibits, artists and culture keeper incubator spaces, which would be hosted jointly by Municipal Archives and the Cultural Resources Departments, as well as flexible city office space to help support site management and temporary department housing. And additionally, we would construct a new support building adjacent to the rear to provide accessible restroom facilities. Utilizing the tourism product development funding combined with that National Park Service grant, last year City Council approved the design services contract with Ethos Preservation. We've now completed the building conditions assessment and the schematic design phase, and we're working through the final design, which we expect to be completed this summer. Purchasing is getting ready to release the RFP for the CMAR contract, and so you'll soon see that selection come to you for approval. And then we anticipate bringing the CMAR's GMP to you for approval this fall, with construction then expected to begin in the fourth quarter of this year and be completed by the end of 2027. So we're really excited about the programming plan for this building to really highlight our history of the area, the neighborhood, and the culture, and really join to both cultural resources and the Municipal Archives Department together to help support that programming.
It's awesome.
Good morning. I'm very excited about this project for a variety of reasons, but and championing it because it's a very distinctive four-room building. When they built Pearlie Smith onto it, it actually worked back in there because that used to be the out-of-school suspension area for the school system when the kids were expelled from school. That's where they went. And then it became Oglethorpe Charter, and so the deal was always to be able to try to preserve that. And there's actually a good amount of history that the neighborhood community has regarding the people who came to that school at that time and the purposes they were there for. And so I'm excited about this happening, and we've been able to get some money for it. I think there might be some more opportunities for funding as well to be able to help develop that. So
I have 3 brothers that went to that school.
to the Springfield Terrace. Oh, Pearl Smith, yeah.
Alternative, the original.
Yeah, and my grandmother was the school crossing guard for Pearlie Smith for well over 25 years. So
I
that's
like
really, yes, ma'am.
My siblings went there. I was too young to go at the time, but the schools there were so many children in the west side of Savannah, they went in phases. They didn't all go like 8 in the morning and get out at 3. Some kids went in the morning, and then some kids went in the afternoon, and I think they were in the second session because they weren't allowed to go to the Fell Street School, which was during segregated times, the white school. But those 2 buildings were built by the same architect, and if you look at them, it's the same building. It's just that the Fell Street School is a little larger. But once they, after Brown versus Board, and they integrated the schools, they didn't allow, they did not want black kids to attend the Fell Street School, so it was shut down, and kids never attended it. So they all had to crowd into Pearl Smith School until they got the West Savannah School. Then a few years later, they got Bartow. So it's a lot of history behind those schools, and so a lot of people are glad to see the city making an investment in that facility.
And a lot of education. As cramped as they were, they learned.
They did.
With the least of resources, the least of the accoutrements that made education easier and popular. I mean, when you look at the roll call of the individuals who actually went to that school, pretty accomplished folks. And so I think, even for the history of our school system, it just shows the resiliency of those individuals who faced the worst of circumstances, but yet, you know, parents did what they had to do and made sure their kids learned, and those kids went in there and they learned.
My older siblings also attended the school.
I wonder if we could consider, Mr. City Manager, you didn't address me to speak, so is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I wonder if we could consider, because Pearl Smith and Fell Street School are one and the same, just different uses by different folk. Is it any way possible, because that school is up for sale right now, can we purchase that and do something with that, because it's history there
Yeah.
as well?
If that's council's will, we did try to, maybe a year and a half ago, try to negotiate a purchase there. And you know, we have to purchase property at a appraised value. And we have a way of doing that with the property owner. If they don't agree with our appraised value, we work through that. And at the time, we were just too far apart on what the property owner felt the value of that property was worth and what the appraised value.
Maybe we can
had.
go back and see if it could be renegotiated, because that area is so desperately in need of, I know we're doing the Entrepreneur Center with the Waterworks building, and that's gonna be a phenomenal project that we're gonna undertake. But that side of town also needs sort of like a trade school, you know, to teach our young men and women how to do the trades. Because believe it or not, that is a field that is dwindling in our city.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just think that that's an opportunity that we could possibly look into doing something.
I understand. I'm very familiar too with the vision. I know we've spoken with you about it, spoken with Alderwoman Lanier about it. I think it's a great vision. Just, you know, telling you and we can absolutely reach out again and try again there. But just to let you know how we tried that a year and a half ago. We'll try again and see if we're any closer.
Things change and situations change
Understood.
and people change, so we
Understood.
might be able to work out something.
Okay.
You know?
Yes, ma'am. We'll reach back out on that.
They gotta be willing to play ball.
And if we can, I think we'll move on. Some of the remaining projects, I think I can do some quick hits here. On the resolution, water access on the south side, I think when this was, negotiated, this was about a specific parcel, but that parcel is no longer available.
We dropped the ball on that one. I negotiated that.
Okay.
And we dropped the ball.
And, but we're gonna continue to kind of, keep this, in our back pocket, so to speak, as we continue to work through. Spa State had $15 million for Southside retrofit plan, and there might be an opportunity here to use some of these TPD allocations to include some water access as a part of that plan as well. So that'll be great opportunity, if one presents itself. If we can move on, to the final slide. Thank you, Bridget. The two last projects, there were West Bay Street gateway enhancements for $1 million. And this is another project that I've spoken to at length with Alderwoman Lanier, and our Parking Tree and Savannah Department of Transportation is already in talks with GDOT about how we can enhance West Bay Street, really from MLK all the way to 516 with some tree planting. So we're working on a plan for that. And then wayfinding at $2 million. Really our plan for this wayfinding is we have several of our TPD projects that are gonna utilize wayfinding, and this will be a nice bucket to be able to draw from to tap into that. Our River Street redevelopment, our Waterworks connectivity in the broader Canal District plan, as well as tied to town as well. So that'll be really helpful dollars to be able to provide some good wayfinding in those areas. So that kind of ends our briefing unless there are other discussions on these last few items for tourism product development. Ends it from there. I'll just recount some of the next steps I know we discussed.
I do have a question.
Alderman Lanier.
Do we have a time frame? Yeah.
The West Bay Street Gateway enhancements are very early, as you know, in planning, and we don't have a timeline now. We're still in talks with GDOT about how we would achieve that.
Mr. Manager, why don't we create a planning matrix, just reducing those projects into a way that, you know, even in terms of anticipation, so that the public is able to follow.
And we can easily do that with the projects that are underway.
Right.
Let me explain. I think about projects in three different ways. There's conceptual, and then it moves from concepts to planning and programming, and then it moves to to execution. We have many of the projects that are done with conceptual, and really done with planning and programming, and they're onto the execution phases. With these two specifically, and with the water access, they are still very much in the conceptual phase.
Which is fine. I mean, I just think it'll be easier, and that way we'll locate it somewhere. We've talked about dashboarding for the public, so that, you know, those things that it's out there, it's public, and when it moves, it just changes. So, yeah. I think it was Alderman Blakely, then.
Thank you.
Alderman
Lanier. The 1 million for the West Bay Street Gateway enhancements, that money was given to us to do that project about 3-4 years ago, correct? When was that given, Alderwoman Lanier?
It hasn't been
given.
It hasn't been given.
Well,
So
allocated.
this is the same as all of the other tourism product development dollars. It was part of that resolution that these were the 8 projects that we would do over the course of 20 years, essentially. And so $1 million isn't a whole lot of money. And so we're trying to understand, you know, what we can do, and maybe it'll cost more than $1 million.
That's what I was about to say, because we increased the River Street for 30 million, from 30 million to 60 million.
Yes.
So we can enhance this West Bay
Yes,
Gateway
again, it's
from
not
1
money
million.
that we've had and that we've not spent. We've allocated, you know, all of the money that we've collected and then some in our 5-year capital plan, because we plan on bonding it out. But on this specific plan, Alderwoman Lanier has been talking with me about some tree planting from MLK to 516 as a way to enhance that gateway. And so that's what we're gonna work on.
I'm sure she wants more than just trees, because when we talked about this, we were talking about enhancing the bridge and changing out some stuff and doing some.
Well, again, just like on all of these projects, there's an endless amount that we could do and could spend on. The constraint is the money that we have. And I think the other thing that we've talked about with the West Bay Street enhancement is in the CID vision plan for River Street, it also contemplates how Bay Street kind of looks there at MLK, which I think gives us some interesting indicators about how we can continue to replicate that further west on Bay Street. So in the scheme of tourism product development that this council came to, this was a very small project, and so I think the plan that Alderwoman Lanier has for balancing the canopy is one that's doable and executable, and we can continue to work through what that gateway enhancement needs to be further on. I mean, I agree with you.
My concern is, we talked about this, I think it was about 3 years ago, 3-4 years ago.
That's
And
when we
here
passed
we
the
are
resolution.
now, still talking about this, and this is something that does not take a whole lot of planning and time and, and I know it's in the 20-year process, but we don't need to be waiting 20 years to do
I
something.
understand, and we're
with,
not gonna
Bay
wait 20
Street.
years to do something on Bay Street, but it does require some work with GDOT, and we're doing that right now.
All right, hopefully it'll be done in the next couple of years.
All right, Alderman Leggett?
Yes, sir, Mr. City Manager, with the wayfinding, project, are we looking at just wayfinding, if that just the term, or do we have different, like Ike or any other companies that might come in?
We're gonna be
as a
looking at
product?
companies, like for Tide to Town and for River Street, the wayfinding has kind of been, at least envisioned about what that would look like. There are companies, that put in wayfinding, as a way to kind of also monetize our right-of-way with advertising and other things. And that could be something that we look at too, to extend those, to extend this investment. But we want to make sure that wayfinding, which is part of the public realm, is in keeping with the vision of what we have for those areas as well.
So we just be spending the $2 million for the, just the infrastructure part, just to build in?
Likely. And the wayfinding will likely cost more than $2 million for all three of those projects, but this is a nice,
But we do
a
have an
nice
opportunity
timeline.
to sell, advertisement on the wayfinding.
We do, and it's something that we'll look at,
Okay.
absolutely.
Which helps fund the
actual project, right.
projects, right.
Well, they would put it in exchange for the use of our right-of-way for advertising. So I think our takeaways, are, we're gonna be bringing the vision plan for River Street forward for council consideration. We'll include some of the, historical marker, amendments that we discussed today, as well as some of the studies that we've, had here on the McCluskey structures here, as well. For the Waterworks building, I'll continue to work with Alderwoman Lanier and council on sharpening what the programming is going to be there with the community, so we can bring that, to council as well. And then, we will, work together on lighting on the Truman Trail, as well as other spokes and trail planning that we want to do to further connect, neighborhoods to the central trail plan. Are those the kind of the, and we will reach out again to the Fell Street School ownership to kind of re-engage on whether or not there's a renewed opportunity there for the city involvement in purchase of that property. Does that kind of account for the takeaways there?
That includes you said move forward and bring the River Street vision to council, that include giving us the actual plan?
Yes, ma'am. I only have one copy, but I think Julie can give
Okay,
everybody.
thank you.
I'll get with each of you to see what a community council needs to bring to you.
Thank you so much.
They're pretty hefty.
Oh, they are? It is?
Yeah, huge.
Good.
It's also online.
I would have brought them today, but I didn't have my.
It's on.
Okay, well, let's do it that way.
Okay.
Well, if you prefer it digitally,
I have a copy.
yeah, if you're like me and don't want any more paper in your life.
I have a laptop and
That was suffice. I don't want,
Correct.
no proof.
All right. So is there anything else?
Before boards and commissions?
Yes.
Well, if you would like me to, I'd like to make
Yeah,
a
go
few
ahead.
introductions.
Go ahead.
So, first off, I'd like
Mark.
to,
You need the paper?
I'd like for us to welcome a few new team members to our Information and Public Affairs Service Centers. First, I would like to introduce and welcome Miss Monique Williams, who is our new press secretary, who's sitting behind you. Monique brings more than 25 years of experience across radio, television, corporate communications, public relations, strategic communication, and public affairs. She's an Emmy-nominated veteran journalist, columnist, and writer. She's a former news anchor, and before joining us, her career has spanned NBC, ABC, and CBS affiliates across North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, and she's had extensive roles in media and content creation, as well as strategic communications. And so she's a superstar addition to the comms team, and we're really proud to have Monique join the team. And
Welcome,
you
welcome.
will all get to know Monique. Welcome, Monique. I would also like to introduce Megan Cashman-Sebold, who is there against the wall. And Megan is joining as our Policy and Intergovernmental Affairs Officer. This was the role vacated by Joe Shearhouse after he was promoted to Chief of Public Information. She also has a pretty extensive career in strategic public policy making and strategic communications at the federal level. She led public affairs for 290 diplomatic locations worldwide at the U.S. Department of State, and she also advised presidential appointed commissioners at the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, and so she is well-versed in federal and city intergovernmental affairs, as she also did this work for the city of Seattle in between her federal work and coming here. So we also welcome another all-star to the IPA team in Megan Seabolt, so please welcome.
So, Mr. City Manager, all these all-stars, we gonna get us some slam dunks and 3 points?
You got it.
All right.
I will say about that is that city manager remarked during one of our recent meetings that, you know, he felt like he finally had a full squad.
Okay.
And so, you know, when he came, we told him to take the opportunity to get to know the organization, assess his needs. And so after 4 years, you know, I think he says he has a team that he thinks every critical position has been filled. So we're happy about that and, you know, ready to roll, rock and roll.
Some phenomenal things happen.
We shall continue to see phenomenal
That's
things.
right,
Yes.
that's right.
Continue.
I'm talking bigger than what we.
Yeah, we should
all
continue.
intend.
Continue, yes,
That's
yes,
the word right there.
yes. So, let's move,
Fantastic deals.
let's, we're gonna move to boards, commission, and authorities. We just have a couple, we just need to be able to deal with. We'll bring some more. We've had some interim changes that we've had to address. The first one is the pension board, and we all know, about the unfortunate passing of, Mr. Bailey. And so, you know, so we have, and then we have, Mr. Mosley, whose term expired on December 31st. So we have two, one vacancy, one term expired, and we have the two asking for reappointment. Is that an issue for any of y'all?
Mr. Mosley for sure.
Yeah, Mr. Mosley, and the other person is a county person.
Well, I mean, I believe he can serve. Go ahead.
But Mr. Mayor, if I may, Mr. Bailey had a very special body of knowledge that's rarefied anywhere, managing large funds. And we've had an applicant, Mr. Spencer Wheeler, who's a native to our region, has experience working in finance in New York and manages large funds our size. It's a rare talent to have in our area. We've had the chance to sit down with him personally one-on-one. He's made of the right stuff, and we think he's gonna be a great fit for the pension board to keep it steady and growing.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
Did we add the, oh, here's his resume.
Yeah.
So they fill
Then
those two positions.
for traffic calming, the District 5 appointee and my appointee, I believe, Alderman Shabazz is ready to appoint, are you?
Yes,
So we have Kayla Brown. Okay, she's not ready. Okay.
But we do Alderwoman Lanier.
Oh, well, she applied, but you had your appointee?
We had a vacancy, and I submitted her information.
What's the name?
Kyla Brown, with Miss,
Pat Jenkins Beatty.
Miss Beatty.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
She's good.
So let's just add that to that. Okay, and that ends that. So anything else for the good of the order before we
Mr. Mayor,
recess?
do you know when we're gonna have the historic, board of review? When we gonna come back to that one?
We'll hopefully come back up with that shortly.
Okay.
I want to thank you for recognizing us for Women's Month on your Facebook page. I put a comment there, and I appreciate you doing that. Thank
Reposted
you.
it. Really nice.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Anything else? Do we need exec session? All right, so ladies and gentlemen,
Save some of that food for
ladies
us now.
and gentlemen, today depends on you.
Yeah. We can be out by 3 o'clock.
We could be out by 2:15.
2:15.